Hello and welcome to another video, and good afternoon from San Francisco Airport here in California. Today I've got a treat in store. I'm heading all the way back to Europe. We're off to Amsterdam on KLM's 787-10 Dreamliner. We're in business class. Let's go and check it out. Come with me. KLM's flights leave from the international terminal here at SFO, which is one of my favourite terminals in the US for just how easy it is to use. Today's plan is to fly our 787-10 Dreamliner 5,459 miles to Amsterdam in 9 hours 34 minutes and then connect for a flight to Teesside, a short hop of 296 miles and 55 minutes on an Embraer 175. Weirdly, KLM's systems still use the airport's old name, Durham Tees Valley, although when it prints your documents, it'll say Teesside. Huh. The more you know. Check-in is a breeze, with bag drop open 4 hours before flying, and priority security allows me to skip the line and be on my way quickly. Pretty easy security experience through in just a couple of minutes thanks to Fast Track. Now the lounge apparently is in a temporary location due to refurbishment, so let's go and check it out. Let's see what that's like. I'll be honest, the best thing about this lounge is the corridor leading up to it, which has some cool retro airline posters. Now, I know this is a temporary space, but this is still a pretty poor effort. It's small, it's not very pleasant, and it still accepts Priority Pass customers, which will only make it more crowded than it needs to be. As far as the food goes in here, I wouldn't get too excited. The buffet is a bit uninspiring, and unfortunately, there's also no coffee available as the machine was out of order. Bring on that new lounge, I say. I'm a bit more content to just switch on the laptop and pretend to do something important, all the while checking flight radar for my inbound flight and making sure I'll be there at the gate to capture a shot of it pulling up. It was kind of odd to see Frontier using this international terminal, especially because this aircraft is only going to Ontario, California, which is only about 350 miles away, and this little A320 definitely feels like an imposter among the hulking wide-body aircraft which dominate the operations here. I actually had the chance to fly this familiar Air France 777 back home for the same number of miles and turned it down for today's KLM 787-10 as I'd never tried it before, and I'm kind of regretting that choice now. Our Boeing 787-10 arrives. It's the longest of the Dreamliner variants, and this one was built in 2019. It can hold 318 passengers and is painted in KLM's beautifully distinctive blue livery. So now I've got a few minutes to myself. Let me tell you about how I came to book this flight and what it cost me, because unlike most of my flights, I didn't pay cash for this one, I paid air miles. So I paid 80,000 Flying Blue miles for this flight as a way of getting home to London. So why go to Teesside, you wonder? Well, there was sadly no availability with miles for that short leg to London, or anywhere close. I had the pick of Teesside, Newcastle or Leeds Bradford, and to be honest, flying to or from Teesside is pretty cool as it's one of Britain's least used international airports. Lots of confusion on boarding. This flight is timed to connect to Indian destinations in Amsterdam, and those passengers for India need a document check. And that's about 100 of them on board, I think. Thank you. Those not going to India can board first, which is kind of strange. A reminder again that it's free to subscribe. Go down, hit that button and click the bell to be notified of every new video I post, and join a community of over 250,000 other trip report enthusiasts just like you. All of this travelling does have a health impact, and I've never been blessed with great skin. Enter FOREO, today's video sponsor, who gave me one of their UFO 2 supercharged facial devices to try. They've got a load of great innovative home use devices which work just as well tucked into a travel bag as they do at home. UFO 2 gives a spa-quality facial treatment in just 2 minutes using pulsations, and it's app-connected so you can personalise your routine. I first used it on the go in a Singapore transit hotel, and its instant warming technology and advanced temperature control made this a really pleasant experience. I was apprehensive about it catching my beard hair, but it felt great and my skin felt loads better after a humid afternoon. The full-spectrum LED light therapy helps rejuvenate your skin, and it has other tech you'd only get at a spa too, like thermotherapy and hyperinfusion. UFO 2 is great as a gift, or you might just want to treat yourself. Thanks again FOREO for sponsoring the video, and do check out their link in the description below. Very confusing pre-boarding process. I'd say there's about 70 people in the queue for pre-boarding, and for some reason they just let Zone 1 go first, so we'll see how this works out. But we're on our way to Amsterdam and we're flying in business class. Here we go. Hey there. Hello, sir. This beautiful blue cabin features 38 reverse herringbone seats in a 1-2-1 configuration, with every seat having direct aisle access, and middle seats separated by a slide-back partition if you're sat next to a stranger, or even someone you know but prefer to ignore. The seats look very similar to the 787-9, but they are in fact quite different. They're made by Japanese company JAMCO, and they're not different in a good way. We'll come to that a bit later. Still, you know how it is on my channel. I'm not here for the drama. I love what I do, and I'll just fill you in with the facts as I see them, and nothing else. Just had the awkward realization that I've color coordinated myself accidentally with this KLM business class seat. Anyway, cheers, and thanks for coming with me. All delicious. We rise out of San Francisco and across the water and get some great views of the East Bay and Hayward Executive Airport. The Wi-Fi on board was pretty temperamental. It was very expensive at a cost of €30 for the full flight, and was not available for large portions of the flight. The coverage was really spotty, which is very disappointing when you're paying that much for the connection. Here's one big reason I'll avoid this 787-10 going forward: the seat is style over substance. These controls are so annoying because they're just where you naturally put your arm. And a big downside, at least for me, there is no proper storage. There's no cupboard and no large cubby, and this seems like a big miss in such a modern and up-to-date seat. This shelf is supposed to be for laptops, but it's actually too smooth to put one in there confidently, so it just gathers dust. And to be honest, the whole seat just seems poorly made and definitely feels a lot cheaper than the ones on the 787-9. Everything is a little bit flimsy, and I was quite surprised at what I found because they do look undeniably fabulous. It's not that the seat is bad, it's just not that good compared to the competition, or even compared to its own sister ship, the 787-9. The seat on the Dash 9 is by a company called Safran, has better controls and stacks more storage. It's the same reverse herringbone concept, so it's equally private, but the 787-10 doesn't have something the Dash 9 does. It lacks air vents. Still, at least there's a great view from the window. You might have noticed by now that if I come back from the US to home, I love travelling from the west coast. It's about 10 hours, so you get a proper sleep, and the Rockies can be seen in daylight, a sight which never ceases to amaze me, no matter the time of year. Mountains are my favourite scenery to fly over. How about you? The dinner service begins with that old airline staple, a ramekin of nuts, although I rather think that whoever was on this aircraft, they probably had a better meal than me. Uh-oh. KLM's dinner menu is not very inspiring in my opinion, just 3 main courses on offer, one of which is vegetarian. Air France, KLM's sister airline, is vastly more ambitious, with a Michelin-starred chef designing their menu, and KLM falls seriously short on the food front. It's just not very interesting, and as you'll see, the food is also a huge letdown. My smile is about to be wiped from my face by what the airline serves up. The starter is a lobster bisque, which is served with a fruit salad, which must be one of the oddest combinations I can think of. KLM's tray and cutlery presentation can't save it from the tough truth. This menu has been put together without too much care and with saving money at the forefront. Clearly, whoever designed it wasn't a clever clogs. Oh God. Anyway, the beef was even more diabolical than my jokes. This was a tasteless, fatty mess and far too heavy to serve on board. I used to work caring for the elderly with dementia in a nursing home, and I'd have been embarrassed to serve this to any of the residents. Unfortunately, the dessert also fails to save the meal, with the mini cakes and macarons thoughtlessly paired with pineapple of all things. And if you thought this was bad, wait until you see breakfast. I'm just glad of a coffee to wash all of that away. Casting that negativity aside, nonetheless, KLM provides a full amenity kit on these long flights, which is pretty well stocked. And the headphones they provide for the in-flight entertainment aren't bad. The HD entertainment screen is big enough, and as far as the entertainment itself goes, there is this absolute classic of a film. I was also surprised and amazed to find David Byrne's full Broadway show, American Utopia, on here too. I love David Byrne, and even if this flight's a disappointment, and the review does seem to be on the road to nowhere, okay, I promise that is the last terrible pun in this review. So the seat went even further down in my estimations when this happened. Yes, it was refusing to lay flat. Really bizarre, and one of the crew had to come and rectify it. Apparently this is a known fault with some of these seats. How bizarre. Anyway, once flat, it made a decent enough bed, and I got about 5 hours sleep, so I can't complain too much about this. A big thanks to the crew who managed to sort this out really quickly for me. It's breakfast time, and a new low for KLM's business class food. This was honestly awful, and these pancakes were a horrid, soggy mess, bizarrely served with cold cuts of cucumber, tomato and cheese. I have no idea what KLM were thinking, but it is generally true that flights which depart from airports that aren't the airline's main hub might get weaker catering. It's a shame. I do like KLM. They're a funky airline with a good heart, and I don't usually have a problem. But I would actively avoid this flight again. Despite being the newest in the fleet, the 787-10 has seriously inferior seats, as I found out, and the food is worse than most competing airlines. The reality is, business class from the US to Europe is very competitive, and there are simply better options to use instead of this. And I'm kind of glad I didn't pay a cash fare for this flight. Still, I got given my KLM house, a memento for all long-haul business class travellers, and I'm building up a little street of them at home. These actually contain a tiny measure of gin. When KLM first flew to the US in 1952, they wanted to give passengers a gift. The regulators in the US said that wasn't allowed, so KLM just put gin inside the houses and called it a drink and part of the onboard service. We get some good views of North Norfolk as we make our way into Amsterdam, and I'll be retracing my steps on the flight back to Teesside, which, as you'll see, will also involve some time travel. We touch down on the Polderbaan. The runway is a few miles from the actual airport, and a long taxi deposits us at the terminal on schedule. The KLM Crown Lounge in the non-Schengen area has showers, which are a must after any long-haul flight. But it's the morning and rush hour, and boy is this lounge busy. Wowee. I've got about 15 minutes until I need to be at the gate, but I've just seen a shop that I absolutely have to visit. Chocks away. Ah yes, my downstairs rule in airports strikes again. If you need to go down from the main concourse for anything, a lounge or a gate perhaps, my rule is it might suck a bit, and this pokey little bus station here houses all of the UK and Ireland KLM City Hopper flights which board by bus. Actually, I rather like boarding across the tarmac, but most people really don't, especially if it rains. Back when KLM flew Fokker aircraft, this remote parking was called the, okay, careful with the pronunciation here, it was called the Fokker Farm. What would they call it now? The Fokkers have gone? The Embraer enclosure? The Jungle Jet Gym? Let me know what you'd call it in the comments below. KLM Cityhopper run short regional flights for KLM on these Embraer 175 and 190 aircraft, and business class doesn't even come with a blocked middle seat. But that's fine, as there are just 2 passengers in business class today, me included. This is a time-travelling flight because it usually takes about 45 to 50 minutes, and with the Netherlands being an hour ahead of the UK, it means we'll arrive before I left. We'll end on a positive. No matter how disappointing the flight experience is, any flying is good flying, and this one is short but beautiful, and our approach over Middlesbrough into Teesside at sunset is a great way to round off a flight.
We are already well into Teesside, and we expect to land in 12 minutes from now. That means that we expect to arrive on time at our parking position.
Overall, a disappointing showing from KLM. I would avoid the 787-10 in business class in favour of other competitors. Air France would have been a better option this time. Still, I'm looking forward to giving KLM another go soon, as I depend a lot on their short-haul network in Europe. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye for now.